All right, Broncos country. The monsters are back as always. Joining me is my good friend and NFL expert, Colum Cronin. We are probably about to argue a little bit today, Colum. I postulated last week that the Broncos were the class of the AFC West. I didn't get a lot of pushback on that. We'll get into it. And then I took a leap and I said, I think they got the best roster in the AFC. Now I feel like I'm standing on like a three-wheeled skateboard with this one, but we'll get into it. Colum, how are you? Welcome back. It's good to see your smiling face.
Good to be chatting to you, Mike, about football, about the Broncos. And yeah, I saw your tweet. I retweeted it because I
Thank
wanted to
you.
see if there would be any pushback as well. Because I'm big on the Broncos. I think we have a very impressive roster. But predictions in March, bold predictions in March, have a habit of coming back to bite one. So I wanted to see if anyone would put stuff out, but very few people did. And so I said, you know what? I need to come on to have a discussion with my good friend and tease this out.
Well, look, I realize it's March. Okay, it's free agency is still somewhat happening. There's going to be some scraps left over. It's pre-draft, so it's early. I get all that, but you can only talk about Jalen Waddle and Tyson Anderson so much. It's not like the Broncos have made so many moves that we have to dive into, and we haven't reached the point of the offseason where we have to start talking about win predictions and loss predictions and starting positions. It's a kind of weird time of the year for Broncos because I have to be excited about what I'm talking about or interested in what I'm talking about. And I do want to bring up something for you. I just want you to look at Ralph Falciano here. He's got the Broncos at number 2 in the NFL. This is your pre-draft post free agent rankings. The Broncos are the class of the entire AFC, according to Ralph Falciano, which we'll break down. But I did have a listener request to hear your take on two things. One was the Broncos being number 2. How do you feel about that? And then two, the schedule that we have ahead. And I'll bring that up in a second. But first off, how do you feel about this? Where would you have the Broncos sitting here right now? I'm sure it's somewhere in the top 5, based on what I know about you. But number 2. It's aggressive.
It is very, very aggressive. One would have to say, and quite interesting. I think again, we're talking about this, and definitely people, great to see kind of comments coming through and be interested to hear from people.
Oh, yeah.
The Rams, I think, justifiably sit atop the rankings. I think it's very it's tough for me to put us above the Seahawks, as much as that pains me, right? Because that the Seahawks are, as a Broncos fan, they used to be in our conference. They were always an annoying team to play against. They remain an annoying team to play against, and they are the Super Bowl champions. And it's whether in boxing or wrestling, I'm sure some of our viewers probably watch both. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. So I think, I know they've lost pieces, but they still have a good core nucleus there. They still have JSN, and I think that I would, for right now, until the season starts, I think I would argue they would deserve to be above us. After that, I think the Patriots could make a semantic argument, right? That technically they got to the Super Bowl. I think we all know that Bo Nix been fit, we would have won that game. But I do think, we have to factor in that is going to be coming back off a pretty sizable injury. So that I think the Patriots could make an argument. I'm not saying I would necessarily agree with that, but I could see how, as a Patriots fan, you're looking at it, right? You've got a franchise legend as head coach who came in and turned things around massively last season. So they will be feeling buoyant by that. If you are a Patriots fan, I'm not, but I get
You know
how
what show you're on, right?
I listen. Think about we think about how we feel about Bo Nix, right? That's how they
I would
feel
marry
about
Bo. I would
the-
marry Bo Nix.
and that's how
Okay.
they feel about Drake May. Okay, so I'm not saying that I necessarily agree, but I think sometimes you've got to put yourself in the shoes of others, and they will say that they went to the Super Bowl, okay, and yeah, there was all sorts of issues in Denver, but they came into Denver, they won that game on the scoreboard, they progressed to the Super Bowl, they could look at it. Everybody else, I think, I would, if I was doing it, I'd probably have us, I would have us 3 or 4. That's where I
Yeah.
would be looking at it.
I think that's fair, and we have a smart chat, so I don't think you're gonna get too much pushback on the show. So this from a listener, specifically for you, Gary, would like your take or your kind of just your overall 1,000-foot take on the schedule. Of course, we don't have the dates yet, but this is a tough schedule. This is another tweet that I put out. Maybe it was the same one, but I broke out how we're playing 10 games against playoff teams from last year. We're also playing the NFC and kind of the class of the NFC in a lot of ways here. So some of the things that stand out, of course, you've got the Bills again, Rams, Seahawks, Chiefs, which we don't want to be there in December. The 49ers, of course, resurgent Carolina Panthers, the Jags, who took care of business against us. I mean, even Pittsburgh could be a tough date. The Pats at Foxborough, tough schedule, Colum. What are your, kind of like your initial, and of course, we always say it's a tough schedule or an easy schedule before the season begins. And then that changes because some teams don't show up and some teams do. Like last year in the NFL doesn't necessarily correlate to success in the future. But Gary wants to hear your thoughts, and I'm curious as well.
Yeah, I do think that's really important, and I think that's a piece where we don't want to get over our skis too much. In that, very often we base too much right on this is exactly we expect how a player last year means they'll do exactly the same thing next
Right.
season, but players have up and down years at times, coaches have up and down years, and injuries are always a factor. This look, you said it, Mike, and I would totally agree. I think when we play some of these games is a factor. Whether you've got road games back to back, when those road games are. I'd love to play the Chiefs early. Because obviously Mahomes is coming off that ACL injury. I would prefer not to be going into Arrowhead in December. It's just not a nice place to go. You and I have decades worth of experience of watching the Broncos.
Careful, you ageist son.
I'm with you, but the reality is, can the Broncos win in Arrowhead? Sure. Is it easier to get a win in Arrowhead in well,
October?
Ordinarily I'd say October, but Sean often that's where his teams are supposed to start to get it right. But I would prefer to go there early. I prefer to that is one. I'm very interested in seeing what happens with the Chargers, because I think They are on paper, they have a decent roster, but again, they're the Chargers. We know at some point, but we have seen regular season Chargers be a really, really good team.
Yeah.
Then they tend to go to pieces in the playoffs, but we have seen that. So that could be, and I do think Mike McDaniel is a serious addition there, right? I do think their run game, I do think that makes a big difference. And I think they need to have a good year, because I think the reality is that players tire of Jim Harbaugh. If you look at the stories, right,
Yeah.
of him, his time in San Francisco, the reality is that the players, they play for him, but they get pretty tired of him because he wants to be your best friend. And that's fine in college when guys are moving through and moving on. It doesn't work so much in the pros, but I do think this year they could be good. I think the Raiders will be better than they were last year. Now that's winning a taller than Danny DeVito contest, but I do think they'll be better than they were. That doesn't mean that they're good. But I think that they will undoubtedly be better. Going to going to Pittsburgh, that's another place I would prefer to be going earlier in the season rather than later in the season. It's not an easy place to go into, especially when the weather isn't good. And then, like, there are some games, right, that I expect us to win, but we've struggled against the Jets. And even last year, my God, that Jets game was torturous. So I expect us to win that, certainly. But again, going to MetLife, like last year was great because we avoided MetLife because we played them in London. MetLife is it's horrible turf. I think people need to factor that in. I would have real concerns if you got back-to-back road games and the second of those is in MetLife. So that those are the things that I think you need to kind of factor in, because of they will undoubtedly have an impact. Now, I'm delighted that we will face both the Rams and the Seahawks in at home. I think that's a great thing for us. But the reality is that, again, New England is not an particularly easy place to go. We owe them one, but again, they'll have a raucous crowd who'll be up for it. So I think the Jags have taken a slight step back in some respects, in that they've lost ETN. That was 1,400 yards from scrimmage in 3 of the last 4 years. That's a big piece for them to replace. I do think Liam Cohen has done a heck of a job there, but it's a tough schedule. Outside of the the Jets and the Raiders, who you'd hope we should beat. I think we're favored in a huge number of these games, but that doesn't mean, like, the Panthers have certainly improved under Dave Canales from where they were. Like they were horrifically bad, but they have improved. But I do think that it for while open stadiums are still a thing, and I'm glad they are, but that's where the weather does factor in, and that's where it's definitely in the same way that, like, if you're playing the Dolphins, you do not want to be going to Miami in September. It's a lot easier to go to Miami in December than they tend to start hot. Cold weather stadiums, when they're open, much more challenging to go in there in December.
Yeah, and it's early. Obviously, we don't know when any of these games are being played. I said if the Broncos could win 12 of these games, it would be an amazing season. You could lose 2 less games and have a better team, and still lose more games. The 14-3 was rare. The ball can bounce you never know where the ball's going to bounce
Mhm.
in any given week. You don't know who you're going to beat, and you're going to drop one of these games that you're going to win. But yeah, I wanted to go over that with you because we're about to get into the basically the nut of this show. The Broncos, are they the best roster in the AFC? Let's see if we can find common ground with one thing, though, before we do that. I put this together with the help of AI. I had it do a lot of my searching for me, and then I went out and searched some stuff too. But AI seems to think the Broncos own the AFC West as far as the roster goes, as we sit here today. Now, depending on how long you want to be on this show tonight, we could sit here and break down this like crazy. There are a few things that we should probably talk about here, though. If you can see this on your screen, guys, in chat, I will get back to you. I see you going over there, but we got a lot to cover. Overall roster, they have us 1 for the Broncos, 2 for the Chargers, 3 for the Chiefs, 4 for the Raiders. That one actually kind of makes sense to me. I know Chargers I would think the Chargers would probably be second and a close second. But other than that, I agree with that as far as overall roster, and that's this one on the top. I don't know if you can see that column well enough to see that.
I mean, I think it'll be very interesting to see how the Chiefs do, because Walker could be a really important addition there, but are they willing to commit to the run? Right. And maybe they are, because Patrick Mahomes is coming off the ACL. I think that's what will be very interesting, because up to now, they haven't, in the Mahomes era, they haven't been willing to commit to the run. But maybe the injury forces Andy Reid to rethink things.
Well, they've got running back. They've got Chiefs as number 1 here.
Yeah. And I can,
it's all broken out.
But yeah, I mean, I can see, and I really like the I think the Chiefs, particularly on the defensive side of things, have a great staff there, and they've kept a lot of those guys together. While the Broncos are bringing back the roster, there have been significant changes. There have been significant changes to the play call. And look, we're Broncos fans. We want to be optimistic about it.
Are we?
Just because I'm not out waving the pom poms telling us we're going to win the Super Bowl 70-20. I am very optimistic about Davis Webb, but we don't know until the season starts how exactly it will go.
I agree with wide receiver now. I don't think there's much to question there anymore. Wide receiver with Sutton and Waddle. That's a heck of a duo. That now you've bumped down Franklin, Mims, Bryant, who was injured, but certainly looked good on the field when he was on there. He has great hands. I know the Chargers have McConkey. The Chiefs, God knows who's going to be on parole or available when they march those guys out. But the Chiefs and Raiders are pretty thin there. It would be, that position would be for me would be, well, I guess just like what it says here, 1, 2, 3, 4. The O-line I agree with. Secondary I agree with. Ed Rodgers I agree with. Linebackers, I mean, have to probably dig into that, but I don't really see any huge stuff that sways me. I mean, I guess the big argument, if I'm thinking about it, if we don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of this totally, but we can agree that you and I are not so different when it comes to the ranking of the AFC West. Can we?
I know. I would agree. Certainly overall, right? I think my concerns as we sit here today are and will remain around Dobbins' health. Okay, because right now, if Dobbins picks up an injury, which he has every single year that he's
would
played,
you stop saying that?
Stop pointing out historical facts. Then we're goosed, right? As things stand, that can change, obviously, but that remains an issue. The Broncos could not run the ball when J.K. Dobbins went down last year, And so that I would point to. I hope that the O-line is absolutely fantastic. I do like their parts of the Chiefs that I think they have a nice O-line. I think ours is better, but I hope our guys can remain healthy. And the linebacker piece, yeah, I question that, but certainly overall, I would agree that we have the best roster in the AFC West.
I feel so much better now. I feel like we can continue on with this show now, Colum. I thought if we couldn't agree on that, then it wasn't even worth going into where we are in the AFC, much less how we're gonna even compete with the juggernauts, as you call them, from the NFC, which is a whole different question. But we're gonna have to cover the AFC first. I like this question from David Youngkin with the addition or the statement. The addition of Waddle makes our offense better, but everyone knows we still have issues on offense. Absolutely. I'm not going to bring up what Colum brought up about my guy JK, but I am going to say you have to because we still don't have a backup plan for that. Our wide receiver or our tight end room is probably third in the division. Yeah, there's some holes on offense, but play calling is going to change. Again, like we don't know. There's coaching changes all over the AFC. There's player changes all over the AFC. But I mean, it's hard to argue this. You know, we did have issues. We did depend on Bo to win a lot for us last year. So David, I think it's a great point there. Turtle's back. That's why the loss to the Patriots hurt so bad. They were abysmal in the Super Bowl and almost did not score. And the same could be said for the championship game against the Broncos. They were terrible in that game, and we just were more terrible, which was so heartbreaking. So there we go. So now, I suppose I want to get into a little bit here. If the Broncos are the class of the AFC West, as we sit here today, Colum, Cronin, we'll have the Dublin to Denver podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, we were first in the AFC last year. Okay, we were the top seed, 14-3.
Mm-hmm.
We brought back 21 of 22 starters. We added Waddle. We lost JFM. We got Malcolm Roach is here. We still have opportunities there, but like, what teams are you looking at against my? I guess my thinking is that the Broncos are the best roster in the AFC and should be considered the favorites coming out of the AFC. Now, I'm not saying it's clear cut. There's nobody close, because I think there are several teams that are close. But first off, your first impression of my somewhat crazy statement that the Broncos are the class of the AFC, like, let's get it started and let's start thinking about what teams are there that we need to worry about.
I think you can make that argument. Right?
Well, I'm making it.
And I think people, no one can call you crazy for making the argument.
No.
You know, they can disagree.
We'll get through the
you.
chat. We'll find out.
I might disagree with you, but I think no one's going to call you crazy for it, because you know, they are bringing back now. The level of you know, at which they're bringing guys back is unprecedented, and so I think that is going to be interesting, right? If I'm to put some caveats, some asterisks, which fans might not like, but if I'm to put some asterisks beside it, yeah, continuity is great, but sometimes you need to bring you know, people in to shake things up a little bit. And not all of the guys that they're bringing back, and particularly, looking at the tight end room and the linebackers, and our friend Zach Seegers has done some interesting kind of work around this. Now he with the data that so if people are on Twitter, have a look at what Zach has been doing, particularly around when Troutman is on the field. The offense is much less productive. So I don't know whether bringing everybody back, is always the best move, but it's the move the Broncos have chosen to make. But again, I think that looking at it, I would expect the Broncos to win the AFC West, and I would expect the Broncos to be in contention for that number 1 seed in the AFC.
The Broncos did bring back all these starters, but this is probably what we're riding with here, Colum, because I'm having trouble finding an open spot on our roster that could be filled with what remains of free agency. Now, the Broncos have built a little more cap space, and they're still attempting to build more. And I think they get some more post-June because of Greenlaw. So they're going to have some cap space. There could be another trade involved, but it's probably early to get into that. So, but I don't think we're drafting or picking up anybody in free agency that's going to take a starter's position as it stands right now with the Broncos on their depth chart. Now, there are some exciting pieces, but there are definitely some not so exciting pieces to this offense. But on the team in general, I guess I should say. But you talk about the defense. I assume you're talking about Alex Singleton or DJ Jones, who I thought had another good year. Maybe Malcolm Roach. Like, where are those spots on the Broncos offense that you see, as far as the starters go, as the weakness? And take J.K. Dobbins off of that list because we're not going to use injury histories for that, because he's going to play 17 games and rush for 1,300 yards.
I remember interviewing Shelby Harris, who fantastically hilarious guy, great interview, and he said, we're going 17-0 until somebody tells me different. We got told different very quick. So I do like you said. The reality is defense fluctuates more than offense generally. We've had 2 fantastic years on defense. And I've said this before. I think if we have a third year, I think VJ should get his absolute pick of whatever job he wants. I do worry about the linebackers. It is a piece that I do worry about, certainly. I do think replacing JFM, it's not just, it's everything he brought to the position. You can get guys who'll go out and who have a high motor and who try, but this was a guy who just was great. Like, to me, right? If I contrast every time I saw him, and you know me, I'm skeptical of media interviews. I always think you take it with a grain of salt, but the attitude that he had contrasted sharply with the attitude of perhaps the tight end room, right? This is a guy who was never bothered about people questioning him, right? And just did all the work on the field. Our tight ends like to talk, and they like to talk a lot, and I'd like to see more production on the field before they start talking. I'm reminded of Peyton Manning's, comments about his idiot kicker, all those years back then. And I think those are the pieces that give me concern. Now, again, I still expect the Broncos, as I've said, to win the AFC West. I still expect them to challenge for the number 1 seed. So these are issues that we're talking about the top end. These are issues that become big issues in the playoffs, right?
Right.
Where I think this year was a strange year in the playoffs in many respects, just with the way it played out. As you pointed out, it got pointed out in chat, the Patriots couldn't score, right? But teams turned the ball over. CJ Stroud gave the ball away. The Broncos didn't have QB1 or RB1, and that helped them. I think what you saw on the NFC side of things is generally much more like what the playoffs are, right? Where it's kind of 3 points, like the Bills Jags game or game against the Bills, right? Where that those are the margins are so fine, like those turnovers that the Bills had ultimately are, what changed the game in our favor. So those are the things I'm talking about. I still expect the Broncos to win double-digit games this year.
Well, they're going to need to. But I kind of like the roster. Now, could they have improved? Sure. I don't see like all the top starters I'm okay with. It's a lot of the depth that concerns me. For instance, Evan Ingram. I'm fine with Evan Ingram as our pass catching tight end. Okay. He can do that if asked to do that, which he wasn't very often. We'll see what Davis Webb, his best friend, does with that. We'll see how much Jalen Waddle opens up the offense for the tight end to become a target. The rest, you got your whole starting lineup for the offensive line, including Palczewski's back, so Bowers and him, who knows there. Matt Parrott is still recovering, but he's back, and Forsythe is back. So we have depth on the O line, not the best, but there's depth. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. You get down in Jaleel McLaughlin and Tyler Bidet. If you want to dive that deep, that's bothersome. But those are moves that I think are going to be made, hopefully in the draft and free agency. Maybe a vet in free agency to back up J.K. Dobbins, or they'll grab a Coleman or somebody like that. And then the defensive side of the ball, there's actually a little bit more depth there. Other than the inside linebacker room, which they'll have to address. But overall, the roster looks strong to me. Yes, there are positions that I think the Broncos can improve. Yet again, I just don't see them getting a starter. Maybe, and I probably brought this up before, depending on what they do at 62, like there could be a starting caliber tight end or possibly a linebacker that could come out of that bunch. But, neither VJ or Sean likes to play rookies anyway. So RJ Harvey was kind of forced into, playing more than I think maybe even Sean Payton wanted him to. And he didn't exactly improve as the season went on. Now his playmaking ability was still there, but that piece is lacking. Of course, again, J.K. Dobbins, Pro Bowler, is going to play every year, so not worried about it. Let's take a peek at the Bills. Now, this is a team I think that can really. This would be like my second team. This is where anybody, especially you, could make an argument for best team in the AFC as far as roster goes. Now, they do have a new head coach in Joe Brady. And as we know, head coaches, you just never know what you're going to get there. So we don't know if he can keep a team together. Offensive coordinator since 2022. He obviously knows how to call an offense or do things. But They're starting quarterback. Obviously, it would be better as a roster. You're going to take Josh Allen over Bo Nix. All things being equal, I wouldn't, but I'm a Bo Nix fan, like I said. But Josh Allen's a very good quarterback who plays very poorly in crunch time for some reason. He's 0-7 in overtime games. He's 0-7.
Now look, some of those,
he struggles.
Like the 13-second game is not on him. The Bills loss in Denver this year, much more. Not solely on him.
I forgot about that. I forgot about Mahomes and leaving 13 seconds, right, and losing that. I mean, what are you going to do? But Bo's got one of those too. So.
Don't call prevent defense, like
Cornbreadimus Maximus, did you look up Acker? Did I look up Acker? Wisconsin Badgers? Did I get that right? If so, if he's the Badger, yes, I did. I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to, maybe, I don't know if I got the right one. But if it's Jackson Acker, if that's the guy you're talking about, yeah, I did. These ponies will say anything these days. This is from Cocktail Flanagan. Maybe he could be your neighbor or something. Like, is he?
I don't think so. I think you'll see. I don't think he's too happy with us.
Yeah. Now, but welcome in, Cocktail Flanagan. We take all team fans here. Rodney says, "Good afternoon, gents. Go Broncos." Love that. Dude on the left sounds like an average pony. So he obviously is a huge fan of yours.
Yeah.
He's super funny. All right. Let's get back to the real comments. See the Bills with 11 wins this year. I haven't even looked at their schedule, Rod. I don't know what they're going to win or not, but I think we'll probably attack those. But thoughts on the Bills as maybe would you consider them the greatest threat to the throne at this point, or do you have somebody else even higher than the Bills?
I have, to me, the Bills and the Ravens are the two I would keep an eye on. And both have new head coaches, and some people are going to say, that could be an issue, and it could. But I will point to you to the last time the Broncos won the Super Bowl. Who was our head coach?
When we won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, in Super Bowl 50.
Oh,
Gary Kubiak.
It was our backup quarterback.
Who had just taken over as head coach because John Fox couldn't get it done.
But he was also head coach before, was he not?
Yeah, but no one had he'd had the heart attack with the Texans. There'd been struggles with the Texans. I mean, when he got appointed, no one at that point had the Broncos. The feeling was we had blown our best chance. After we had lost that game to the Seahawks. In that particular Super Bowl, the Colts were seen as more likely to win that particular than us and the Patriots. So Kubiak was seen as a weak link. So I'm not saying that they definitely will. It could go terribly for Joe Brady. I think teams sometimes need to reassess how they judge a head coach, because the skills required to be a head coach are very different generally from being an offensive or defensive coordinator, and sometimes it's great, right? It works out, like Sean McVay, right? McVay has been absolutely sensational as a head coach, right? Sometimes the first go round doesn't work out so well, right? But it can work out, it's second time around. So those are the reasons. I think the Bills, I expect them to be there or thereabouts. I think when you have Josh Allen, you know, like they had to, you know, they put themselves really in a hole last year. It looked for a time
Mm,
that they might not even make it, and then they did. So, so whether they could be vying for the number one seed. They equally they could have that 11-win season and kind of sneak into the playoffs like they did. But they did sneak in and they beat a Jaguars team who were surging at that point, who had come into Denver and beaten us. And they went down there and they beat the Jags. So I think that, you know, that they're capable of winning. And they could have won, and they didn't. Fortunately, we got the job done. But I think it would be remiss to dismiss the Bills, because I think that Sean McDermott was holding that franchise back a little bit. I think he was a very good head coach, but a
mm.
bit like John Fox, I think that moving on from him could be now. You know, some people have point that, you know, maybe they wasted Josh Allen's best years. He still has plenty of good years left. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
think that it could be a good move on their part, and they've I think they gave up an awful lot to get DJ Moore, but DJ Moore is a capable wide receiver. I I think they didn't get obviously give up, say, what we gave up to get Waddle, but Waddle is in a different stratosphere
Yeah.
to DJ Moore. But at the same time, I do like Cook. I do think their line is good. I think defensively they're okay. So I think they will be a very solid team.
I like Shakir, um, in spots, the wide receiver.
Yeah,
Um,
it was hot and cold.
yeah, I think their big signing, one of their big signings was, Bradley Chubb, and I think that says something. Like they're making a big deal out of Bradley Chubb going there. So I think we'll see. You know, if I want to get there. Here we go. So I don't have the Bills 26 schedule, and I don't feel like going looking for it. But the Bills are up there. Uh, the Ravens are up there too, as Rod points out here. Um, Lamar Jackson will be back. Derrick Henry apparently is going to be playing again. I like Zay Flowers enough, hot and cold again, but he can make crazy good plays. Um, they kept Andrews at tight end. There was hope, I think, in Denver that Mark Andrews could be available at some point in time, but that didn't come about. But I think they still have some of the problems that they left with. I think they still have a lot of those. I think still have a lot of building to do. Um, and then of course with Harbaugh leaving, that we'll see.
Yeah, that Harbaugh leaving is an interesting one, right? Because I think he's a very good coach, but I think things have clearly gone stale there, and I think that is a piece where him moving on might be good for everybody. It might be a disaster, but I think if you read between the lines, certainly it sounds like um, things between him and Lamar last year weren't good. Now, some people will point to, you can't let a QB win that sort of battle, but QB did win that sort of battle in Denver.
Yeah,
But if you
true.
go back, once upon a time, Denver were almost pushing John Elway out the door. He won that power struggle, and hey, look how that turned out. So
Yeah, they
um,
drafted a first round quarterback when they had John Elway. I mean, how crazy is that? That
They
was
were looking
nuts.
to push the Duke out.
Yeah.
So now, look, the Ravens haven't done that, but um, I, I maintain, and I'm glad to see the Broncos had made the move for Waddle. I do think you know my thoughts around the tight end room. You know my thoughts on other things. But I had said to you last week, I thought the Broncos were doing what the Ravens had done to Lamar and not put the talent around him. I'm glad to see them address that. I think that's a really important piece. Lamar is older. Lamar is a different sort of player, but Lamar is a very good quarterback.
Yeah,
And
he is.
I think that we've seen it. Like sometimes I think people get carried away in what we saw Lamar do early in his career, but we saw the Ravens come into Denver when Vic Fangio was head coach, and Vic dared Lamar to beat him. Right? He said, "I'm not going to allow you run. I'm not going to allow you scramble. I'm going to dare you to beat me with your arm." And he did. And if you can beat a Vic Fangio defense and pick it apart as he did, you're a very good quarterback. And I think ultimately getting Trey Hendrickson, not having to give up the draft capital, I think that's a really shady move. I don't like it. But the reality is that the NFL, you do whatever it takes to win. These are the and that's what they did. So I think that that makes them more dangerous.
The NFL is shady, so they're used to shady.
Yeah.
They don't even blink an eye at something shady like that. I want to go back to Evan Ingram for a second. I saw you flinch when I mentioned his name. Is there not a part of you that thinks if they have a blocking tight end on one side, say they're running 22 personnel or whatever it is, and you got two tight ends on the field. Evan Ingram's one of them. You've got little Jordan Humphrey maybe wearing 85 and gets moved to tight end, puts on 15, 20 pounds. Waddle, Cord, JK in the backfield.
We've done the Broncos tried to change players' positions in the past, and no, let's not go there.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay there because I like the idea, and I'm one of the ones that came up with it among other people. So I still like that idea. It's mostly because Sean Payton is in love with this kid and can't quit him, and I'd rather keep the other three, or maybe they keep 6 wide receivers this year. But back to Ingram. Can you at least admit that the tight end position, and I have stats to back this up, was one of the least utilized positions?
Oh, I've said that. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, I think it's hilarious, right? Like,
okay.
we played a version of football that was brave, right? Because it just didn't utilize the tight end position. No, I think the Jags I think it'll be tough for them because I think they've lost some really core components on offense and defense, but I really like Liam Cohen. So I am interested to see, but losing it again is a big back to try to replace. But I do think players play for Liam Cohen. Clearly, he's got a bit of an edge to him. And we have a head coach that has a little bit of an edge to him. So I think that like they were the hottest team going into the playoffs last year, right? And ultimately, that was a coin toss game almost against the Bills. So I would have them as probably still as favorites for the AFC South because I'm skeptical of what I don't see exactly what the Texans are doing this offseason, and I don't like what the Colts have done. So I would still have the Jags as favorites for the South, but it's tough. But I think it's an interesting year, right? Because Trevor Lawrence gets a second year under Liam Cohen, so we get a much better sense of what Trevor Lawrence really is as a QB.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on the Trevor Lawrence train now. He's been around long enough. He's been through his struggles. I think maybe his confidence is up. Liam Cohen, it's about fit. And I think he fits well with what they're trying to do there. So I expect good things out of him. But I wouldn't even try and call that the AFC South yet at this point. I think the Texans and the Jags are going to battle
Love
that
the
one out.
Texans defense.
Yeah.
Their head coach is fantastic. CJ Stroud is a real issue for them. He needs to show, because he's regressed massively since his rookie campaign.
Miguel says, "Monsters, what did I miss?" Man, you missed everything, dude. You got to go back and see the beginning of the show, because we're going to basically win the Super Bowl if it wasn't for Colum wishing the worst on some of our players.
Nobody, like, very few people are John Elway. My God, like, again, I would love to have the access and to write the book on John Elway, because the greatest high school QB, high school athlete potentially that there has ever been, one of the greatest college, and an absolutely phenomenal NFL QB. But the real story of the Duke is yet to be told, and Netflix didn't tell it.
Yep. And
yeah,
Newman, welcome.
I agree. I agree with Newman. I think people are burying the Chiefs a little too early.
Yeah.
I don't think they're not going back to the 2018. But I think that they will be much more of a problem next season than they were last. Though I will say I don't know if bringing Kelsey back, maybe he's gonna really give it, but last year it's very hard to turn things around right when the decline starts, and time waits for nobody, and ultimately it catches up. No matter who you are. That talking about Elway, remember the press conference where his body wouldn't allow him to do it anymore. That happens to everyone, and football is a very physical game, and tight end is a tough position to play, and Kelsey is not the young man. He can still be an effective weapon, but they'll have to utilize them in different ways. But I do think very good and experienced coaching staff, and Spags as the D coordinator, they'll always be tough.
Yeah, one bad season doesn't define anybody, especially when you've got injuries. Anything can happen. Their roster is just pretty depleted right now. I think the fall is they went 6-11 last year, so they did fall. Now, that's not to say that they're gone. That was why I said, are they poised for a comeback season? The question looms in the air for everyone in Chiefs, what do they call it, nation or something? I don't know. But anyways, in Broncos country, we don't know. I would say I agree with some people who are saying it's sort of a reset, like they're going to go for Patrick Mahomes version 2, like they did with Brady, where you kind of reset the whole squad, build around him. They've picked up a bunch of draft pieces. So this next season could be certainly could be better for them. And you never know if Mahomes stays healthy, we could see them right back in the thing of things. So you never know. But yeah, they fell. What do you want from me? I'm not perfect. Richie Rich. Ingram's drop percentage. You know what? I was on a show. I forget whose show it was last week that we were talking about this, and I don't have it in front of me. But my understanding is that it dropped, and then it dropped, and his percentages have dropped. And his separation numbers were really good too. So Jackson Ackers under a lot of radars without a deep dive. I think we get closer to the draft, Cornbreadimus, we will get all over into that. I will have everybody on that knows everything about that stuff, and then I will make fun of them for being nerds, but it's mostly just because I'm jealous and I don't do the work. Taylor is going to swiftly get Kelsey killed. What is he now? So he's definitely coming back. And by the way, I put this out the other day. Colum, I want your reaction to this. Jalen Waddle on a down year with Tua throwing to him, who was cut and sent off, and they paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to get rid of him. And then was it Quinnen Ewers or whatever their backup's name was. Waddle still managed to get 910 yards receiving on that team.
Mm-hmm.
That would have placed him as the number one wide receiver in the AFC West last year, were it not for Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, no, I think
That's an amazing. That's an
it's
amazing thing to look
a
at. Travis
wonderful
Kelce.
1-2 punch.
Yeah,
I think
that's a
that
great
I
point.
think the Dolphins actually made a mess in bringing Tyreek Hill in. They gave up way too much. I think Waddle can be a number one receiver, and I think that it's great that we have brought him in. I think he's a wonderful addition. And the fact that he was so good on a team that was a hot mess, to describe it politely. Everything, nothing. I mean, it was obvious, right, from week 5. It may be earlier that Mike McDaniel was going to be out of a job, that their season was tanking, and that Tua was going to get cut. And so to get 9-10 is phenomenal.
Yeah, and by the way, the Chiefs' leading receiver last year was Kelce. So none of their wide receiver group did anything last year. Richie says Chiefs will not bounce back. Fields has never had a great season. Mahomes needs time to heal, so this year will be their reset year. I think it will be their reset year. I think Mahomes is and you can never believe anything you hear. They bring Fields in, and on one hand, and then on the other hand, they're telling us that Mahomes will be ready for the first game of the season. I hope he is ready. I hope he is healthy, and I hope he plays like crap. But I do hope he's healthy, because I mean, honestly, think the guy's a good dude. I like this. We're already predicting. So this was last year. 76 targets, 50 receptions, 8 drops. Yeah, drops are one of those. Drops are one of those. Analytics that they're so subjective. I said this. I caught a little heat from this. I said this last week. Maybe to David or someone, but no, it was I had our good friend Zach Seegers on. We were talking about a lot of subjects. One of them, Ingram, came up, and I did bring up the point about like catchable balls. Okay, like Bo Nix doesn't throw the most catchable football all the time. I think it takes some getting used to. I think when you're only getting a couple targets a game, you don't know you never think the ball's coming to you. You tend to have you can count a couple of those drops towards that. These are professionals. I can see your face. I know what you're going to say, but I'm just saying John Elway didn't throw the most catchable ball either. It's part of the game. Like Montana throws a very catchable ball. There are quarterbacks who just lay it right in your hands for you. Ingram, as someone, I even hate saying this, it's embarrassing to say this, but someone who played sports, if you're not getting the ball, it's human nature. You just start assuming you're not going to get the ball, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, here comes the ball, and then you don't have a feel for it. I think some of that might have contributed to Ingram's drop rate, but I still think he wow, that seems high. I'd have to look at those. I'd like to see what those drops are worried about. I like Ingram. No, Turtle, don't worry about that.
What came to mind there in terms of just like we were saying, the catchable ball was the Peyton Manning, where Richard Sherman said Peyton Manning throws a lot of ducks, and Manning goes, yeah, it's true, I do. I throw it for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns with ducks.
It's true, he did, especially towards the end of his career. He feels that way about Corum Bredimus. I feel that way about Mims. Literally Waddle 2.0 and unused. Oh man, dude!
I really like Mims.
I like Mims too, but he's not Waddle.
I'm gonna Corum Bredimus. I love your username.
Great name.
I do love Mims. I do think he is underused. I'm going to quibble with your use of literally, because I don't think he's Jalen Waddle 2.0, but I think there's an awful lot to like about Marvin Mims.
Thank you. Me too. And guy came through in the clutch at least once a month last year. Win a game for us. Grandizer, welcome back, my friend. Mike and Colum, yes, and Waddle got those yards with Tua not only having a down year, but the O line was not great. Besides left tackle Patrick Paul and center Aaron Brewer, it was not good. Grandizer watches a lot of Dolphins football, apparently, or he went back and watched the film. So love that.
I mean, if you're a fan, I mean, they were in some ways a fascinating watch last year because, I mean, again, where they were, right, and that the beatdown they put on us, and how McDaniel liked to construct, and then to see that disintegrate like before your very eyes was really interesting.
Yeah, Mims is not a great route runner. He has great hands. He is kind of a. He's like. He also makes plays when he gets the ball in his hands. I mean, he's done some incredible stuff once he gets the ball, especially in space. All-pro returner, of course, and then like that clutch catch in the Buffalo Bill game. His whole contract for like 5 plays, he was worth every dime he got. So he does need to work on his route running a little bit, whereas Waddle is a very sophisticated route runner. So very different players, but nice to have them both on the team. You don't know without targets. I think he's referring to drops. And
I don't know if I think maybe he's referring to Marvin Mims being 2.0. But look, I think like,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, Waddle, like, there's a reason Waddle was drafted where he was. Because he was a known quantity, and I think that even if you gave Marvin Mims, like, obviously, look, if you gave him the Waddle share of targets, I think he'd do quite well. But I really think Waddle is an exceptional wide receiver, and I think he's come to an organization that is incredibly well run and is disciplined. Let's not forget, like, this is and he, by all accounts, he is a really good guy, a guy who works pretty hard. And this isn't on him, but the Dolphins have been over the last few years a joke franchise, right? This is an organization where, and this was on the defense, but the defense celebrated, right? They did laughs like when Vic Fangio got fired. And then Vic Fangio went and he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. So, I can't take the Dolphins too seriously, and I think that comes from ownership. A lot of bad owners in the NFL. We're very fortunate in Denver to have a very good ownership group, but I just think that he's come to a place where he gets to really show off his skill set.
Yeah, I'm what you said earlier about McDaniels. Like, you knew early he was gone. And I'm a huge fan as an offensive coordinator for him. But I think I just remember watching him walking around the practice field, in warm-ups, and he's dancing around, and he's, like, so cool and so hip. And it's like, oh, man, the players are going to kind of love this guy early. And then when he has to put on his big boy voice and try and be a grown up, it's not going to hit well with the locker room. You have to be consistent. But play designs, man, and especially in the running game. Wow,
it's where it could be a real issue for for us with the Chargers. And again, he can learn. I think. I think
he'll learn from this, and he'll be a head coach again.
And I think he essentially he hitched his wagon to Tua, and that. I get it. You want to back a QB, but Tua was never it.
He wasn't. I think you don't re-sign like your okay quarterback to those huge contracts. Yeah. It's just a disaster every time. I'm sorry. It's like you're better off letting him walk, signing mediocrity back. But the one thing about McDaniel, like his, I am curious about. So he's a Charger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Omarion Hampton will be his lead running back. And he's actually really good at designing runs, run plays. I don't know if Omarion Hampton would be the perfect back for him, but I think he's a good back, and he's going to make him better. Definitely one to watch for, especially on a Broncos team that does struggle to stop the run at times. But I'm not putting the Chargers up for the top of the AFC with the Broncos, who still hold the number one spot. I haven't heard anything to change my mind yet from the chat or from you, unless you have another team. Like, are the Patriots challenging the Broncos for the AFC this year?
I don't think they are challenging for the number one. I think as we sit here today, I expect the Broncos, the Bills, and the Ravens to be the ones who are most likely fighting it out. That does not mean that there can't be a surprise, right? Because
the Jags last year, the Broncos last year, the Patriots last year. We were the worst roster in the league.
Anyone who said that they knew the Broncos were winning 14 games last year, right? That they knew it. Had the Broncos winning 14 games with Drew Lock as QB. So it was the optimistic fans. Great if you feel that way, but no one expected it to happen, right? There are some going into certain seasons, there are teams that you kind of know will be competitive, and there are others then when it falls off, like the Lions last year, right? When they had lost both coordinators. We saw it with the Eagles in terms of them losing coordinators, so that can have a big impact. Now, the Broncos still have Sean Payton, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, and we still have VJ. But those are the things that you want to watch it. So for me, I think the Ravens, the Bills are the two I expect. There could absolutely be a surprise, and like while Sean and VJ don't tend to use rookies, some teams will use rookies, and sometimes rookies are absolutely exceptional. Right, they go out and they change your franchise. Like, think about when Justin Jefferson came into the league, right? And from the moment he landed, he was an absolute superstar. So and sometimes, right, draft position or where you go in the draft isn't like. It's usually an indicator, but not always, right? Nick Benito, Bo Nix, there's plenty of people who wanted to tell you, and Stephen Ruiz, I think, still would probably try to tell you that Bo Nix shouldn't have been isn't a good, let alone elite QB. He's wrong, but I just think that there'll be some team that is going. Brock Bowers, right? Brock Bowers went to a terrible team, right? In the Raiders, they've been brutal for years, for decades, right? But Brock Bowers is a sensational tight end. If a Brock Bowers type player went to a good team, a team with proper ownership, a team who were competent, he's the type of draft pick that changes franchises. So I would not be surprised. CJ Stroud's rookie year, okay? Jaden Daniels' rookie year. So I would not be surprised if we saw a team who surprised us. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to, go for the number one. But I do think undoubtedly there's always a surprise team.
Yeah, Bowers was that was the Knicks draft, wasn't it? Or was it after that?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he's a good player on a bad team. As far as the Raiders go, obviously they'll take the first overall pick for the Fernandez or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Mendoza. And you, I mean, again,
but they're talking, Colin. They're talking about starting O'Connell, and easing him into it. But that's not going to happen with the
no, it won't.
Number one overall pick.
It's nonsense. Like, look, the media tries to play these games. It's the same thing as like Kyler Murray is the starting QB in Minnesota, right? It's not JJ McCarthy. There is no battle going on there, it's Kyler Murray, because Kevin O'Connell needs to win to keep his job. And I think Kevin O'Connell wishes it would have worked out for JJ, but it hasn't, it won't, and there's no fixing that. Okay. And giving JJ more reps ain't gonna fix it. He just, I don't think he has it. And this is not a case of the Sam Darnold or the Baker Mayfield, where a guy, was talked about as a number one pick overall, had all the tools, had displayed it year after year in college, then came in and went to a really bad organization. JJ McCarthy obviously won a national title with Michigan, played a very particular style of football. I thought it might work. I really did. But the Vikings are not a dysfunctional franchise, right? They're a very good franchise, and Kevin O'Connell is an exceptionally good head coach. So to me, I think that is the fact that it hasn't worked is very telling.
Minnesota kicking out one quarterback and bringing in another one worked out not that great for them. So.
Definitely
downgraded there
with how it worked out, certainly. But
go ahead.
That just on that, like a lot of people questioned the Seahawks move last year to move off of Geno, but they won a Super Bowl. Geno got the Raiders the number one pick, and now Geno's back in New York.
Yeah,
how
the world turns. I wonder how the Jets fans are feeling about having Geno back. I'm sure they'll cope themselves and be exciting about it. I do want to touch on Ashton Genty. Of course, he was the I don't even know what pick he was in the draft, top 5 or something like that, to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to change the game, but he was like 5'8", 200 pounds or whatever he was. It's basically RJ Harvey's size. I was never as high on this one as everybody else. I mean, he did rush for 975 yards. He almost got his 1,000, but he averaged 3.7 yards a carry. They signed this center for $27 million, typical Raider move.
Yeah,
crazy.
The top of the center market had been 18 million. I mean, they didn't just reset it. They just absolutely blew past it. It is crazy, the money
that was nuts.
that they spent.
Yeah. Other than that, though, the Raiders, well, they're not really worth talking about. I mean, you're right. I saw another team up there. I guess the Jags. I don't know. Just to kind of put I suppose we can just kind of let's just finish this conversation, shall we?
Well, I think.
By the way, why did we keep a day? We haven't kept him yet. Rodney. He's just around for camp for now. Although I did check him, he does have a lot of special team snaps. So if he does hang on, it probably, But I see the Broncos making at least 1 or 2 additions to that running back room, and I don't see either Jaleel or Bidet making the team. But just because I've nailed that room, 3 years in a row doesn't mean I'll do it again. I could be wrong. I'm keeping the Broncos not here, but I am keeping them ahead of everybody else in the AFC West, AFC for now. Colum, are you willing to be bullied into that? Or are you going to, in front of the 114 people on Twitter and however many on YouTube are watching right now, and the 400 or 500 that will watch it, are you going to go on record putting somebody above the Broncos as we sit here today in the AFC?
Not in the AFC. I'm not, as we sit here today.
All right, fair enough.
I have us. I do
close.
think it'll be a battle, but I have us now. I think. Then we get to the NFC. But I do think there's some good comments that I think we should end with the AFC NFC discussion.
Right.
But
let's get caught up on our comments
because
Where are we starting with?
it's an
First of
interesting
all,
one.
now we covered this, right?
Yes. So,
Um,
and I think that is in relation to Mims, and then Grandizer.
ever since
He knows
Parcells quit.
he knows his football.
Yeah, man.
Definitely knows his football.
He also says he wanted Coach McDaniel with the Finns. I did too. But he, like Flores, had an ego. They both should not have an ego. That doomed them both. I mean, they were both doomed. Maybe not for the same reasons, but similar type stuff. A lot of wild.
Well, I see what he's saying in ways, but I think you need something of an ego to be an NFL head coach. But I do see what he means. But ultimately, what doomed them both was Tua.
Yeah. Grandizer says the wild thing about it is Tua's a good QB. Tua made McDaniel look good in 22 to 24. The big issue was McDaniel never fixed the O-line. Even so, you're a Grandizer. You're a Tua fan, right? And where did he go?
Tua went to the Falcons, which isn't a bad landing spot for him. It's a dome, and he's got a chance to be the starter there. I think Tua has regressed massively, and I don't see it. I agree with him around the O-line. I think the O-line never got fixed. But I think McDaniel had put too much faith in Tua until this particular season. Now, this I think is an interesting discussion.
Yeah, Big E coming in.
Wouldn't do it.
Let me ask you this question: would you trade Cortland Sutton to Jacksonville for BJT? Right, that's Brian Thomas Jr. Mm-hmm. Okay, our second pick draft, pick 1.
I think he's saying essentially, what would you trade Cortland to Jacksonville for Brian Thomas, and would you trade Franklin to Cleveland for their 3rd round pick? I wouldn't do the former. I wouldn't trade Cortland Sutton. I have real issues and concerns around Brian Thomas's effort, or lack thereof, on a lot of plays. And I think for the same reason that we had a discussion around George Pickens. George Pickens is a more talented receiver, but I have issues around his effort. So I wouldn't be willing to do that. But I probably would be willing to move Franklin. I don't know if you'd get a 3rd for him though. Maybe, no, you're not, but I don't know.
Well, I mean,
now Cleveland, they're crazy enough to potentially do it. But if they were for a 3rd, I probably would be willing to. But at the same time, injuries happen. I can see, and like I think there's an awful lot to like about Pat Bryant. But Pat Bryant had a few injuries last year, so I think there's value to keeping the room together because it's a cheap enough room outside of Waddle and Sutton. So I really want them to make it worth my while. But I like Cortland. I think Cortland's a good voice in the locker room. I think having somebody like him is important, and I would prefer that. I prefer him. Even though he's coming towards the end of his career as a top level receiver, I still wouldn't be willing to move off of him for Brian Thomas.
I wouldn't either, but I think there was a time I would have given a 2nd round pick for Thomas, but not Cortland Sutton. But now with Waddle, I'll keep Waddle. I'll keep Cortland. I think those two are going to work really well together. And I would also keep Franklin. I would not. 3rd round pick. It could end up. I mean, George. Yeah,
George does like picks.
Yeah, it's possible, but no, I wouldn't do it. I would ride with what we have for now. I think having Franklin, Mims. Now Mims is going to be in the final year of his contract next year, I believe, or this coming year. He's going to be coming up on it. So that's one where you might be tempted to make a move. Also the Jacksonville picks. Okay. Man, do you do like mock drafts and stuff, Biggie? Curious. Grandizer. If the Raiders draft Mendoza, they will. You look marvelous. To quote Bill, you look marvelous. 80s skit so long ago. I used to be able to do that imitation Grandizer, and I haven't heard that in so long that I forgot it was. I forgot how it goes. I probably sounded like Sylvester Stallone there instead of. So I got to work on that. T Fishes, Chargers, Jags are biggest threats this year. I mean, they're threats.
Again, I don't think it's outlandish. I think, as I've said, right. I think the Chargers find a way to charger themselves up.
And also, I think the Jags' loss of Etienne and Lloyd are bigger than just the number of players. I think those are two pretty big losses for them.
I think particularly ETN. I really do. But as I've said, I do like Liam Cohen. So be very interested to see what they might do. And he's turned around a franchise that again has very dysfunctional ownership. The Chargers, yeah, if they stay healthy, but I question when there's a history of injuries, whatever the team, I question it, and I think that with the Chargers that exists. Sure, if they were to stay healthy, they would. I think they have some really nice pieces, and I think in the regular season they're a very good side, and they have shown you that they can, win. I think we have lost Mike and at the moment. But if he's back. But if we
I was trying to get a message and I hit a button and closed. Actually,
we kept it going. We moved on. We moved on.
I knew you'd be there. We're old pros now. A year ago, we would have been like, "Oh, I guess it's over," and just hung up. But now we know better. We can always find our way back.
I mean, T Fish is making his case for Brian Thomas Jr. I get why I can see the reasoning. I wouldn't do that. I think. Yeah, I would be amazed if you got more. Like if you got the offer of a third for Franklin, then I'd be tempted to do it. I don't see the point in doing it for a fourth personally. So that's why I'd be more likely to keep him.
The only reason you would do it is because you were planning on extending Mims, and Pat Bryant really showed out. Because after that, you don't have anybody like this. You've got Cortland, Waddle, Franklin, Mims, Bryant, Humphrey. So on the surface, it sounds like you have an excess of wide receivers. I mean, literally, last year we were throwing passes in the playoffs to Michael Bandy and little Jordan Humphrey. They can change fast. I say we keep them. Then we got a fourth round for Vele. So anything can happen. Somebody gets desperate before the season. Biggie, I actually think Denver drafts a running back. Let's hope so. And then they bring another one in after for like Najee Harrison or Robinson. I believe you're right. It'll either be post-June cuts where we'll get that running back. We'll get a camp running back for sure. We're not going to put a lot of miles on JK during camp, I would imagine.
Oh man, as a camp running back, Broncos country is going to absolutely fall head over heels in love.
Well, with about 5 players, they're going to do that. We should have had Kyle Shanahan if it wasn't for Joe Ellis. If it wasn't for Joe Ellis, a lot of things would have been different. And yeah, you're right. We would have had Kyle Shanahan. He just didn't want another Shanahan.
Yeah, but I do think the issue with the issue was the trust as well at the time. And the NFL landscape was changing and money was important, and the trust didn't have it. They were, but absolutely, yeah, the way in which that played out was just crazy.
Yeah. And Grandizer admitting to the world, and you got to respect that. He is a Dolphins fan. He likes to, is okay with him.
I don't know, Grandizer, I don't know what vintage you are, but they do have the team, the only team to go undefeated, so
he's got to be close to 50 if you're talking about age. Because if he's pulling out, wasn't he the one that pulled out the marvelous? Yeah. Okay.
Now, maybe he's just particularly well read.
Well, the only one on this show particularly well read is you. So I wouldn't recognize it if I saw it. It's not true. I read at least a book a week, but it's all fiction. I don't read like anything that I never learn anything. Biggie, he never had the arm strength to do exactly what he needed to do with that
joke,
offense.
that old joke about you get your friend a book and he goes, "Oh, a book. I already have a book."
I was this age the first time I heard that joke. That's great. Okay, so you're talking about like machine AI mock draft type stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, cool. I'm just saying, like, I want to keep court.
Yeah.
I just think I think that room. I think those two are going to work together so good that right now, two unselfish players that want to win that fit really well together. I mean, BJT, yeah. I mean, he's got some talent there. Could have been useful, but I think the Waddle acquisition puts that to bed for me completely. I get what you're saying about being healthy, but Denver wasn't a healthy team just a couple of years ago. But we've been remarkably healthy for the last 2 years.
And that's where I get what he's saying, but that was Sean Payton bringing in a brand new staff, right?
Yeah,
and
new staff, new practice regime.
There were some very unhappy people in the Denver media when that happened, because the previous regime were there were a lot of connections. Let's put it that way. So unless the Chargers are willing to change it up, that and maybe they will, but I think that's what you have to do in order to and again, it makes difference. But as we saw with the Bo Nix injury, like anything can happen, right? Like freak injuries can occur, but it's where they happen time and time again that you begin to kind of wonder.
Cornbreadimus, I have a photo, one of the youngest photos I have, actually the first football uniform I wore. I was 12 years old playing Pony League football or whatever it was called, and it was really cool. All the teams were pro teams, so I was a Dolphin first. It was my first team. I have a picture of that. I think it was number 32 for the Dolphins, and my brother was a Cowboy. And I don't remember what number he was because he was really slow. I think it was a 50-something. But anyways, we never played each other because he was older than me. So I wanted the Dolphins to go after Tanner McKee. Yeah, no memory of that. Don't know who that was. Sorry. I have different guests for that stuff. So we can look it up, but let's, I mean, Grandize, you're on your, I feel like I should start a side gig as like a Dolphins show. I've got somebody that wants me to start. Somebody wants me to start a Packers show, which I'd love to do.
Let's do a Dolphins show. Anyone want to take me and Mike to Miami? We'll do it live.
Well, I'm going to Key West next month. I can take my gear with me and I can do it from Key West. So I mean, is that close enough?
Fly me to Miami. Let's do it from the beach.
Why don't you figure out how to get to Key West around April 18th? Colum, you travel a lot. Been a fan since for the 70s, before they won their Super Bowls. I got so lucky, not a bandwagon, but that was a long time ago. So it's nice to have you. It's okay to be team, a fan of more than one team. But
or to join us, respectful fans from other teams. Great, really enjoy.
Well, Grandizer's a Bronco fan too. I can promise you that because he's on my show every week or every night. But I'm curious if the Broncos, and careful how you answer this, if the Broncos and the Dolphins are playing, who you rooting for in that game? I want to hear your answer. Big E also actually think with them going to the air raid style system out of the West Coast, I don't know that they're going to do that. First of all, I think there's going to be some influence, but I don't know that they're going to do that. Sean Payton's not going to just redo the whole playbook. At least I don't think he is. That's going to help DK stay healthy because they always got to do block and be at the check down. Yeah. I mean, you would think there'll be some air raid stuff added. And like we don't know what Sean's going to do, but whatever they're going to do, it's going to be because Sean decided that's what he wanted to do. Did you have any thoughts on that at all? So
What Sean and
he's
Sean
referring to
alone.
Davis Webb. Davis Webb, came
Yeah,
from the Texas
I,
Tech air raid.
I mean, I think it'll be a little bit different. I don't know if it'll be air raid, but I do think you'll see more tight end usage.
I hope so.
um, I would nearly guarantee it because I mean we basically we use the tight ends in the same way that they were used in the pre-forward pass era. That's the Broncos tight end usage, so it can only go up.
Yeah, Clayton Duper, Maximus. What are you saying, dude? Help me out. I don't know.
He's talking about Tanner McKee being the
And
backup
Tyler
to be
McKee's the
the
backup
Eagles.
for the Eagles. Got that. Maximus here. This is Broncos
Oh, he's
100%.
gone
So,
Broncos. Oh, and look
so
at Grandizer. Look
but
at
no,
this.
that's not
Oh,
Grandizer.
I
That's
know, but look below. Look below.
here we go. Yeah, I have to go with my first love Dolphins. And this is the part where I get blocked. Just kidding. For the record, I don't hate any team, never have. If you were a Broncos fan, you would hate at least one team. That'd be the Raiders, but hate's a strong word. It's
You
a
can't. They're too shambolic. Like
yeah,
they're just
hate's a
pathetic.
strong word.
You kind of you just see them and it's just like we all know somebody who's just down on their luck, right? And has been down on their luck for 20
Yeah,
years. And
yeah.
and they buy a scratch card and they tell you they're going to win and they
Every
never
year.
do.
Yeah, they never do. Now, Grandizer, would the Dolphins give up Achan for a second round pick? Big E wants to know if we can get the running back with Waddle. That's Achan. That would have been a good combo right there. They say they're not trading him, but you never know when they say that. Martin, I'm still here. It was an hour and 30 minutes just waiting just to see you come in. So now I'm happy. I think I've seen everybody in. I can sleep at night. And speaking of that, it's got to be getting late in Dublin, Ireland for you. So
I
we're gonna wrap this up.
so you asked about the AFC and whether anyone was above the Broncos. Are the Broncos above the NFC Titans, the juggernauts of the NFC?
You're asking me this now.
I'm asking you that.
I think they can compete with anybody in the league. I've got the Broncos as the best team in the AFC as we sit here today. Before draft camp, all that stuff. We'll do all this again. I have the Rams and I have the Seahawks ahead of the Broncos right now. Even the Seahawks without Walker, I still just think that team's strong enough.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I think anybody else though, I'd be comfortable. I'm comfortable having them third in the league.
I think for right now, I think and look, that could well change. I think a lot. We need to see how the Seahawks respond to Kubiak not being there, Walker not being there. I think we need to see what it looks like for the Eagles next year. I like the Eagles roster, but I think they need a real OC. Because they haven't had one, and that's a real issue. And I think there are obvious issues there, between the QB and AJ Brown. And I think you'll probably see AJ Brown move, but we need to see what it looks like, for them. And in the same way that we need to see what it looks like with Davis Webb. But the Broncos have been there last year. Should have been in the AFC. Should have been the AFC representatives in the Super Bowl, but wasn't to be. But I think when you look at the Rams roster, and again, it's all It's all very well with roster, but they played so well. I do think McVay is a very good head coach. I think he's very savvy. I think they've realized they have a window with Stafford. I like what they've done. Look, injuries can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah. You can't factor them in. So
no, but I think but piece by piece, they have a stronger roster than the Broncos. And that you have to be objective enough to see that. But I really like what the Broncos have. I think we are capable, certainly with the addition of Waddle, of winning a Super Bowl. But that requires, you know, we can. But if you put us into 99 times out of 100, everything would need to fall our way. I still think there are tweaks, and I think it can be done. Like, I think the comment there around the Broncos drafting a running back, absolutely, I fully expect that. I think it'll be interesting to see. I hope lessons have been learned from last year, where they just didn't have the insurance. Yeah, are the Broncos in like a better position right now than they were this time last year? I think so. I really do.
Yeah. Colum Cronin, Dublin to Denver podcast. You can find him at Colum from Cork across social media. Did I get that right?
You did. Colum from Cork across social media, Dublin to Denver, because I see Grandizer had a question.
Are you going to stay in for the chat? Because I was going to let you go.
No, I'm going to go. But I just saw because he had asked specifically around whether I do Broncos content. So I do Broncos content, not on YouTube, but we have a podcast. Stuart Roach and I, very good friend of mine, great guy, and. I am familiar. He asks, am I familiar with the Roar of the Lions, who are a fan group in the UK? I'm in Ireland, but I'm aware of them. They do great stuff. I used to be on the Irish NFL show for about 4 or 5 years. Are familiar. They do really, really good stuff. So and it's great to see, like, the growth of the NFL around the world has been really great to see, and fan groups coming together on social media has been really cool. And social media is ultimately what led to me meeting Mike, and this all happening. So and
he's been in this studio.
He's
been at this house on the Carmelini Ranch. One of the funnest nights we've had out here in a long time. Colum, thank you as always. I know.
Yes, got work in the morning.
Got work in the morning.
Get some shut eye, but
you guys will catch us every weekend.
Yes, we'll be back again next weekend.
Yep, it will be on Saturday or Sunday. I'll announce it as soon as I know. Colum, get out of here, and we'll. I'm going to finish out the chat, and then we'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Talk to you soon.
Yep, bye. Not you. Get out of here. All right, that's Colum Cronin. He's the best. He really is an expert. Now, let me get back to these ones I missed. So, Martin, I didn't mean to just blow you off there. I was kind of go, the Niners are your favorite NFC team, but when we play them, I want to destroy them. I want to play them in the Super Bowl and put 55 on them to get the revenge. Boy, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, what a beatdown that game was. I don't remember what year that was. That was in the 94, 92, somewhere around there, I think. I don't know. God, it was terrible. We both be doing a draft stream live during all 3 days, or only day 1, 2, and 3. Don't know. Haven't scheduled that yet. I'll probably be. My guess is Colum won't. He might pop on, but since it's like 11 o'clock at night there right now. So like when the draft starts, doesn't it usually start at like 6 o'clock or something like that? Like he'll wake up and see that. But I'll be on several shows or hosting one. I haven't decided yet. You guys think I should host one? It kind of seems like something everybody does. And then I do get asked to be on a lot of other people's. So I don't know. I did one with Sports Talk Denver once. I think I did the first round with them. That was fun. Other than that, I haven't really thought about it. I would have to bring, if I were doing it, it would be like all chat based, and I would have to bring on, like a draft guy, like a couple draft guys, because I'm like a really busy person that doesn't dive into the draft. Biggie, I just think they're going to run the West Coast playbook, Sean Payton's playbook, no huddle out of shotgun, fast tempo, 3 wides, 1 tight end, 1 running back. They're going to run a lot of that for sure. I definitely agree with that. Now, I hope they do the tempo. The one thing that bugged me, like bugged a lot of you guys too, was watching Bo Nix stand there for 15, 17 seconds waiting for the play call to come in. It was driving us crazy, which is part of the reason why, honestly and obviously, why Sean gave up play calling. Like, he knew that he was overthinking stuff. Oh, like, so yeah, okay, I see what you're talking about now. Yeah, you're going back to your favorite players. A-Chain would have to cost most likely 2 second rounders, 1 this year, 1 next year. Fenn's new GM says he wants picks. I thought last I heard Grandizer, he said he wasn't available at all. He was part of their future. 2 second rounders. Yeah, I'd probably wait on that. That would be that'd be a big price to pay. I have to see how the draft goes. Rest in peace, Reggie Roby. So love him, the best punter the Fins have ever had, and he is still not in the Fins Ring of Fame. Question, Colum, silly question. Do you produce Broncos content on your channel? If so, have you heard? Oh, so that's the one he answered. Yes. Now, he doesn't have a YouTube channel. He is on this show and this show alone. His podcast is Dublin to Denver podcast. You can find that on Apple or Spotify or wherever you go. So if that answers that question, I know he answered the rest of it. Would you take Franklin and our second draft pick for a running back? Oh, for Miami? Are you guys doing trades on the show? I'll let you guys do that. Martin, as well as Bo's played his first 2 seasons, I really do believe he's going to make a big leap this coming season. I do too. He's going to be scary. It's going to be Boo Nix. He is going to, I think he's going to be third year's when they say, man, quarterbacks, if you can survive the first 2, the third year is when you, make your bones, so to speak. So I agree with you there, Martin, for sure. Grandizer thanks Colin for his answer. Vic says, yo, as he likes to do, just off from work. It's good to see you. Are you the one that's always off to the casinos too to do a little gambling? Are you up? Are you down? What's going on? Ron, I really don't like the Raiders or the Chiefs. I do root for other players in the NFL. I was a Manning fan while he was with the Colts. Yes. I think we all do that. Hopefully we all do that. Now, we don't root for them on the day we're playing them, but yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Wasn't it 89? I think it was, Martin. Super Bowl where we lost 55-10. Was it 55-10 or something like that? It was bad, whatever it was. 55-17. What did I miss? Any moves? I haven't checked Twitter at all since I got on here. You guys tell me. The last move I saw was that, what was his name? Tyson Anderson, that backup safety. I definitely checked before I got on, but as you can see, I've been on the stream for an hour and 45 minutes, so I have not had a chance. Cornbreadimus Maximus. I'll say this. That'll change if they get the right players. It'll be pro set 11 personnel, 21, 22. I think all that's on the table. Big E says it was 87. Oh, what was the 87? That was like that was the Cleveland, wasn't 87 in the drive. So maybe whatever it was a loss. I thought I was in the Army when that game. Maybe it was right before I went in the Army. I can't remember. I went in 88. So last century, by the way, for children in the crowd. Or am I thinking about the Redskins? Yeah. We went to like a bunch of them, so it's kind of hard to keep track. I haven't really thought about it. After we won 97 and 98 or 98, 99, depending on you look at when the games were played, you kind of lose track of like the ones that we lost or when they were. But Broncos were really good when I was in the military from 88 through 92. They were right there, and the Bills were right there in the AFC. So I had another sergeant that was with me who was a big Bills fan, and we never actually like physically fought, but it was close. It was close. Off the table. Okay. So Atchain's off the table. We'll see. Denver played the Redskins 88 and the Super Bowl 49ers in 90. I thought that the one was in 90 when they just went off on us. Doug Williams, Timmy Smith. I forgot about Timmy Smith, Grandizer. After the first drive, the Broncos looked like they were going to rout Washington. That was one of the games that we came out quick and then just got buried. The other ones never really looked that close. Went in the Army in 86. Curious about where you served. 2 years before me. So were you in until what, 86 to 90? Or how long did you stay in? Waddle's a hot player, but Atchain is a very hotter player right now. Yeah, no doubt. Like they're rebuilding. Waddle I think is a good move for both teams. They need the picks. They, get Waddle off the books. A great move for the Broncos too. I think it's one of those win-win moves for me. A lot to pay for Waddle. Not to say that we overpaid. I hate when people say, we overpaid for somebody or we didn't overpay for somebody. This isn't one of those, I think, that we overpaid for. I just think that it was expensive, and that's what it cost to get a player like that. So I got through all of your chat. It looks like I had a lot of people watching, which is great. If you guys got any more chats to get them in while you can, and I will get to them. It was nice to break down the schedule with Colum. To get Colum to agree that the AFC belongs to the Broncos right now. You guys have no idea how much work it is. He's a Broncos fan, but he is a cynic, and he is he's kind of a show me guy, and I think we showed him, guys, and I appreciate all the help in the chat, making us make that happen. So brag, and 90 South America mostly same. Yep, spent time. We may have been in the same places at the same time. Central America. How come you don't wear the silver star you got awarded? Were you ever stationed in Colorado? My son was born at the Army base in Colorado. I was not an E7. The silver star that I have is my father's. No, I was never stationed in Colorado. But I was there. What is that? What's that hospital there? Fort something hospital in Colorado. Yeah, my son was born there. Where was I coming back? Coming back from Europe and then visiting family in Colorado. And my wife's family was from Colorado, and so she stayed there, and our son was born there. Right there. Gosh, I can't think of it. So yeah. Yes, Army says that's heavy medical unit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Correct. Actually, I actually went to high school in Panama. So, wow, Fort Kobe and Fort Clayton. I was at, so for Just Cause, I was at Fort Gulick, as it was called. So, Atlantic side, these are Pacific side. So, yeah, we definitely walked some of the same strange places together. Maybe at the same time. So, maybe we bumped into each other. Maybe we bummed a smoke off each other. You never know. Anyways, now you got to be more of a Bronco fan. At least, if not that, it might be more of a Monster fan. But I'm a bigger fan of yours now, Grandizer. I'm getting to know so many of you guys. I want to thank you. Of course, Cohen Bredimus Maximus. We got Big E, as always, in the house. Vic came in and said hello. Martin. Ron's always here. I want to make sure I shout you guys all out. It was nice to see everybody in here. I think I just about have everybody that came in. T Fishes, of course, was in here. Just a great chat we have on this show. Really can't thank you guys enough. I can't thank you guys for watching. If you're watching for the first time, I saw a stat today when I was looking at like 63% of the people that watch are like not subscribed, and like 40% are, or 7% or something like that. So a lot of new people are watching, and also keep watching, but they didn't ever subscribe. It does an amazing thing for us when you subscribe. It doesn't like blow your phone up with stuff or anything. It doesn't cost you anything. It tells YouTube that, hey, this show is out there, and then they'll go, oh, well, then let's try it in front of some other people. There's like weird algorithms. Like me just doing a show doesn't automatically put it in front of everybody. Like YouTube decides what shows to put out in front of people for them to try. And so the more subscribers I get, the more the YouTube algorithm thinks, hey, maybe this guy's got something here. So, and we do, because our numbers are climbing all the time. So it was, my mother just chimed in, actually. It was Fitzsimmons Army Base. That's what it was called in Denver. So my mother is watching live. So she will have plenty to say after I go. Richie Rich was in the house. Richie Rich of the MHRT network does the Wild Wild West show, which is a really cool program if you haven't seen. Newman, did I miss Newman? Oh, that's because he was a Chiefs fan. But thanks for coming in, Newman. Miguel, oh, man, I'm going to have to probably quit doing this. Turtle was in, because then I'm going to start missing people. And the chats are getting so crazy that I'm going to be afraid that if I miss somebody, then I'll offend them. So I'm trying my best to scroll back through all these and make sure I haven't missed anybody. I thought 303 was in here, but that's it. All right, so that's all I got. Fort Davis, my best friend lived at Fort Davis for a while. Yeah, Fort Davis, Fort Gulick, Fort Sherman, all those places on that side. We got a couple questions here. Let me get to some questions here. Yeah, it's definitely not called Gulick anymore. I can tell you that. It's going to be 3 years before Miami gets back to where they need to be, even with all these draft picks. And they're going to get a running back they want a future. Yeah, Big E's trying to get your running back. Like, I don't know if we're going to get it on this stream, but we can make it happen. After base, Clayton at Albrook Davis. Okay, yeah. They changed the names of all those places. They're all gone now, I would imagine. Saw some very disturbing pictures of what my old house looks like. What's on tap this week on your stream? Guest news, other mock draft money, Broncos edition. That's going to be, let's see, I've done a show like almost every night because my wife's been out of town. I think I took last night off. So this week, for sure, will be, well, any breaking news, of course, especially if it's big news, we'll definitely be on. If not, Wednesday at the latest, I will be on David from David Talks Broncos, as always. My two scheduled shows in the offseason are always Wednesday, 5:30 Central, 4:30 Mountain, with David, and then every weekend with Colum, and then at least one solo show. So thanks for asking. And thank you guys for coming in. Rod, thank you. It was an awesome show. I loved it. We can't appreciate you guys enough. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Get ready to get back to work. If you're not working today, like me, it's wonderful. If you have to work in the morning, you're probably going to start thinking about that soon, like me, and not and dreading it. But until then, and unless there's something breaking, I'll be back out tonight if there is. If not, I'll see you guys real soon. Thanks again. Go Broncos.